Hey everyone, welcome back to GameSpot's E3 stage. I'm Mike Mahardy here as always with Lucy James.
Hey there.
And we are here with Jacob Mickelson. We are going to be talking about Hitman 2, a game that was teased a little bit before E3. Warner Brothers released the kind of like the racer, the racing track, and then everybody's like kind of like speculating what it was. But what's it like to finally have the game announced and showing it off?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been great to kind of, spill the beans and show people what we've been cooking up, right? So it's lots of great reactions. People playing the game at the booth and having a lot of fun with it. So it's really, really great to see Agent 47 in the wild again, doing his thing. So it's been very, very, fantastic.
So it's Hitman 2, and then people were wondering if it was like Season 2 or whatever. So can you talk about the decision to not go episodic with this?
Well, the thing is that I think Season 1, the previous game, did a lot of kind of good things in terms of kind of getting people to know what to expect of a Hitman game and what is the game about and about kind of mastery of the locations and getting to know all the ins and outs of the different places you go to. But this time around, we're kind of bundling it up all at once, so you can play through the main story at your own pace. And then at the same time, for the live talent, we did a lot of good stuff in the previous game with the escalations, contracts, these different challenges, and also the elusive targets, if you know those, these time-limited missions where you really only have one shot, and then you're, I didn't make it, or yay, I got it. But this time around, by having all the locations available at launch, it gives us a lot more pieces to play around with in the live talent, so you don't have to go to the same map until the next thing came out. So this time around, more varied live follow-up content.
Has it made you reevaluate the live schedule at all? Because you kind of like people, the way the content was doled out last time, people spent so much time in the individual levels, and you kind of had to balance as to when to introduce the live content. So how is that going to change for?
Well, I think it's going to be more of the same, so to speak, but without the big locations. Are going to be expansions later down the line. But we had a lot of the way we've constructed the game, right, allows us to kind of add characters. Right. So we don't have to redo the entire thing, and that's what we do for these elusive targets, and also for the escalations. We change things around so you know some of it, which make it like. It empowers you because you have intimate knowledge of the location, but all of a sudden people have changed. It's like you have to be very kind of aware and still kind of keep calm and be kind of observant of what's going on.
So as you were saying, the locations in the Hitman games are huge. They're pretty like paramount. Mastering it as Agent 47 is a huge deal. Can you tell us about some of the locations that we'll be seeing in Hitman 2?
Well, currently we're showing off Miami here, as you see, and I think that 47 is of course the main star of the show, but then the locations they play a big lead role as well, because every location gives you something new stories, new characters, and all that stuff, and as you know, we go to great lengths to do this, right? So in Miami, the centerpiece is a race car, but then we kind of have to add all the things around the race car as well. So the track, the pits, the paddocks, the VIP lounges, to make this really a living, breathing world with lots of details for you to be creative in when you go down it. And then we've hinted at a second location that's kind of dark and dangerous rainforests. We're saying, which kind of sent the forum on a hunt for all the rainforests on the planet.
Okay.
So there's a map you can go check out. But it's nice to see how eager they're kind of are to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And that is the most appealing thing, I think, or one of the really appealing things about Hitman games is like, and I think that's why people get so passionate, is it's about the locations, but it's also about kind of all the emergent things that can happen from that. And obviously the first season got such a huge following with streamers, and it was just because you can see how the game itself will just like unfold and like these random, like really crazy situations will happen. But how have you been? What were some things from season 1 that you wanted to change when you're going into the second game, while also maintaining what makes those Hitman games familiar?
I think internally for the team, the previous game was like a learning lesson. far from all the team members have been on the old ones, Blood Money and stuff, right? So we kind of had to reinvent the sandbox in the first game, and that means that now we're kind of cashing in on all that knowledge about so what makes a great Hitman level? How can we make the locations pop even more? And then in Miami we dialed it up a notch with bigger crowds than we've ever had, right? And then of course it had a solid foundation for us to kind of so what are we gonna add next? And one of the things we've added now is we've added more depth to the crowd gameplay. So this time around, if you get into trouble, you can actually dip into the crowd, and the guards will try to kind of search for you. So it becomes this cat and mouse game. And then another thing we've added is this briefcase, the suitcase, where he can store his sniper rifle, because trafficking around such a big item it kind of causes a bit of attention. So this is a way for you to kind of get rid of that attention, but you can also use it for other items. So it's yet another tool for Agent 47 to kind of go about his business.
And speaking of Agent 47, this game is going to delve deeper into his story, and it's not just about the assassinations; it's about him as a character.
Absolutely. The previous game, we went to great lengths to actually create a story where we have some characters that are still alive, and that we can then use in Hitman 2. So and these stories will come closer together, and this time it becomes a bit more personal on 47's behalf. So it's going to be interesting to see how, because it is a continuation of what happened in the previous game, but now things are kind of narrowing in a bit. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people kind of get the story.
And then also, I'm so curious how you design these games, as far as do you start with the environments? Do you start with what the objectives are going to be, the characters that you could be potentially assassinating or being disguised as? Can you walk us through the process of where do we want to set this mission? How do we want it to play out? That's fascinating to me.
Absolutely, I think it's actually a very long process that starts with some ideas, right? Okay, so we have the main story that would like to have something to happen, and then we kind of go on a hunt for what location could that take place in. And then in this case, okay, let's go for the race. It fits with the characters. They're part of the background world, the Kronstadt Industries company, and they are doing some dirty deeds. And then from that, we kind of deducted, okay, so the race. What could possibly go wrong at a race? That's then we ask, what could possibly go wrong in the kitchen, and what could possibly go wrong? That's a lot of things come from that. And then at the same time, we want the characters to tell a lot of stories. So when you kind of explore the level and discover them, you get to know them a lot better. You get their angles on why they're doing the things, and a lot of kind of things to learn about the characters. And then at the same time, we want a lot of the characters to kind of hint at what you can do with them. We just saw 47 earlier pass a flamingo. That's one of these stories that can unfold in the mission. And right now another, so that's one thing. And then we just saw 47 walk up some stairs here, where just an example, right? We have some disco balls hanging here at the staircase. And that's one of these things where, okay, so we build the location, and then we look at it and, oh my God, these huge disco balls, they look like they could do something if they hit someone, right? So it becomes can we turn them into an accident? And yes, we can. So a lot of it is kind of this iterative process where we have some core ideas, we put them in, and then early on it's the graphics are not there. It's just a shape, and then we kind of iterate on it, and we play it again and again and again, and kind of fine tune all of these moments. So we have these great experiences where players have lots of choice, lots of freedom, and they can kind of do as they want with the game, right?
And obviously, you've got a very enthusiastic fan base who are always giving you feedback on things. How do you go about changing things up in the game to kind of give fans what they want, but also keeping it, what you consider to be good game design that'll actually
I think that's a very good question, and in the terms of Hitman, right, it's also very chaotic, because literally we have little idea about what people are actually doing in the game. We provide them with a canvas where they can go in and kind of express themselves in how they want to deal with the game. But we look a lot at the forums. We have user research going on and during development, where we kind of figure out, okay, so how does this work? Of course, there's some ideas where it's like, wait, this is not a good idea. People don't like it, they don't get it, so okay, let's change that up to something else. So again, that feeds into this very big iterative process as well. But it's always this fine balance of, okay, the fans would really love to do something like this. If we look at the forums, they have, I would like to do a mission that's set in a theater. I would like to do a mission that's this. So there's plenty of ideas and feedback coming our way. And then we kind of we look at it and I think I would be lying if I said, okay, we're not influenced by this. We totally are. But then at the same time, we also have our own creative ideas about, okay, we would like to do this feature next and that feature next.
What are some of the biggest lessons you learned from the first game that you're carrying over, whether it's for the level design, for the missions, or for just like how the game plays out?
I think one of the key factors I'm looking at when I'm playing the game is very much this: how does it flow? And I think that's don't have too fast stretches where nothing happens and there's nothing to see, nothing to interact with, right? And I think that's one of the places where I think we're refining it a lot this time around, where Season 1, was a first for us in that regard. So a lot about the flow, I would say.
You've also introduced a co-op mode as a pre-order bonus. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. The game is out November 13, and if you pre-order, you get access to a new game mode called Sniper Assassin, where Agent 47 is kind of perched on a hillside overlooking this wedding. And there's some targets and a lot of bodyguards that you need to deal with. And for the first time in the Hitman franchise, we're actually doing a multiplayer component, so you can play it cooperatively with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So you better have picked the right friend, because one failed shot and then you're not friends anymore, right?
I imagine having to balance everything for a second human player must have been difficult, to say the least.
Yes and no. Because of the way the game is constructed, right? All of these characters we see and meet are their own. They run on their own impressions, and they're kind of coordinating themselves. And that kind of meant that the AI was kind of ready for handling two people sniping at the same time, because that's how they work. But in terms of differences, I think that the level design is a bit different. It still has the same inner workings as a Hitman level, so there's stories that unfold. You can make this wedding go in different directions based on if the cake is there or not. That's up to you if you shoot the cake. So you can make someone have a really, really bad wedding, and you can also make someone have a good wedding. So it's very much the same DNA underneath the hood, about lots of things to explore, lots of things to discover. We've hidden a lot of small things for you to find in the mission that you can kind of interact with as well.
What was the reasoning behind introducing it now? And is this something that the fans have been calling out for, or is it something you just kind of wanted to experiment with?
Well, was one of the things where we wanted to say, okay, let us try to do something new and different. And to be honest, we have in the previous past done a sniper mission before, and it's a very strong fantasy. So I think it fits the franchise really, really well to have this mode in it where it's so condensed into one thing, and I really, really think it works out really well, and people get so hooked on this thing. It's amazing. It's like people at the studio kind of have had competitions, and okay, who's the best sniper assassin, and there's been a lot of kind of inner fighting going on there. It's been a blast.
To go back kind of to what you were talking about with the game flow, in your words, what is it that makes the Hitman game's so appealing? I mean, people who play it can understand and can explain why they're so fun to play and so fun to like see things kind of interact and interweave throughout the gameplay. But in your words, what's the elevator pitch for Hitman games?
The elevator pitch would be freedom of approach in a sandbox assassination game. That would be kind of the top level pitch. For me, it's very much this: you make your own little plan of attack, and then you roll with it, and then things get a bit out of control, and it's like juggling hot potatoes you just took out of the oven without burning your hands. Once you get into that phase of the game, I really think it excels. And another thing for me that I'm really kind of proud of in the game, that's the NPCs' reactions to all the things you're doing, the conversations that they're having while they're investigating things, and that's a direct kind of reaction to what you just did. And that feels like, okay, you made a difference in this made a bump, a dent in the world, and now it's actually trying to react and trying to kind of catch up and cope with what you just did. And that's to me one of these things where I think our game is really responding to you as a player. It's not just triggering another cutscene with this happens and that happens. So it's very much your own narrative you create in this this mission. So I think that for me, that's why I like to play the game still after so many years, right? It's like, yes, I still get caught up in this thing, right? Because, oh, I'm just going to try this and I'm going to try that.
Why do you think so many more games nowadays go toward that, like, people finding their own narratives rather than developers kind of, like, shoving it on them?
Sorry, I can hear.
I'm just curious why, like, what makes it so powerful when a player can find their own narrative as opposed to the developer kind of saying, like, here's a story I need to tell you?
I think it's something about that it becomes your own, right? You take out, every time two Hitman fans meet, it's always a blast because they have so different stories to tell about this game. Even though they were in the same place, they have completely different stories to tell how about they completed the mission, what clever things they did, and what they discovered. And have you seen that thing over there? And I think that's really rewarding. There's so many things to discover and make your own in the experience, which is a very powerful thing.
Great. Well, Jacob, when can people watching expect to play Hitman 2?
When they can play it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's November 13, and it's sorry. November 13, and if you pre-order, you get access to the Sniper Assassin game mode, where you can play co-op with a friend for the first time in the franchise.
Awesome. Well, Jacob, thank you so much for joining us on stage, and have a great rest of the show.
Thank you.
And people watching from home, don't go anywhere. We're about to talk about Just Cause 4. We will be right back.